Mistaken love, a path of no return. Sang Xiang is my nominal sister, yet in reality, she is my child bride. After my father's passing, my mother, fearing that she might flee with another, resorted to drugging her and locking her in my room. This unfortunate act ultimately caused her to miss her true love forever. In a twist of fate, she later imprisoned my mother in the basement like a dog, forcing me into a state of despair, a captive to her whims. This lifetime, we shall never part. Are you satisfied now, brother? In a pool of blood, I opened my eyes once more, returning to the moment when my mother had drugged her. 1. Ugh. My hair was tugged back, forcing my head up as I lay on the ground. The chains on my ankles clinked ominously. Qin Xiang gazed at my pained expression, a shadowy smile gracing her lips. Qin Haoran, is starvation your method of suicide? For every day you refuse to eat, I shall torment your mother an extra day. I'm curious to see whether your resolve is stronger than your mother's. Sister. I numbly shifted my eyes, suddenly speaking. Qin Xiang's hand halted abruptly, her voice chilling. What did you call me? For over 2 decades, I had never addressed Qin Xiang as sister. Having been raised as a bride from childhood, how could I refer to her as sister? Yet today, I felt compelled to do so. Sister, I said, a faint smile tugging at my lips, my gaze growing increasingly hollow. 7 years, is it not enough? After the incident with the drug, Qin Xiang willingly married me. She treated my mother and me with utmost kindness, wholeheartedly managing the company alongside me. So serene was her demeanor that we believed she harbored no resentment. Until that fateful New Year's Eve, when she drugged us during dinner. While imprisoning my mother and me, she seized our shares, completely taking over my family's company. From that day forth, a vendetta named hatred persisted for 7 long years. Initially, I proposed divorce, sought compensation, and even attempted various forms of suicide. Ultimately, however, I was forced to relinquish all hope as Qin Xiang held my mother's life in her hands. Thus, my refusal to eat was not a matter of choice. It was an inability to consume anything. Terminal gastric cancer truly inflicted excruciating pain. Enough? Qin Xiang chuckled coldly, delivering a stinging slap to my face. Yet she then offered a bowl of warm porridge to my lips, compelling me to drink. Qin Haoran, what you owe me can never be repaid in this lifetime. Were you not afraid I would run away with someone else? I assure you, we shall never part in this life. Are you satisfied now, brother? Forced to consume half a bowl of porridge, I could not suppress the urge to vomit. Qin Xiang's expression darkened further as she tore open my shirt and mounted me. Refusing to eat, are we? Very well. Then let it continue. I truly could not comprehend. If Qin Xiang despised me, why had she not sought solace in another man over these 7 years? Instead, she resorted to drugging me, sharing my bed. As emotions surged, veins bulged on the back of my hand. While my body experienced pleasure, the agony within my mind doubled. Until the metallic taste of blood surged from my stomach, no longer containable. Crimson spilled from my lips, splattering onto the pristine white sheets. Panic-laced Qin Xiang's voice echoed in my ears as she frantically wiped the blood from my mouth. Yet the more she wiped, the more it flowed. Qin Haoran, what's wrong with you? My body slumped as I gazed up at the dazzling crystal chandelier, a smile of release gracing my lips. Qin Xiang, in this lifetime we are even. Let my mother go. 2. My head swam, yet my body felt as if it were weighed down by some unseen force. I furrowed my brow and slowly opened my eyes. Before me loomed a familiar yet distant ceiling, leaving me momentarily bewildered. Am I truly still alive? Where has Qin Xiang brought me? This did not resemble a hospital, nor did it align with the confines of the room where she had imprisoned me for 7 years. It felt more akin to the home we once shared. Brother, I feel so hot. Qin Xiang's delicate breaths echoed in my ear. I trembled violently, goosebumps erupting across my skin. That my gaze darted down, colliding with her longing eyes. Qin Xiang appeared significantly younger, her eyes hazy, breath fragrant. Soft kisses landed upon my neck. Brother, you feel so cool and comforting. A thunderclap resounded in my mind, jolting me with intensity. This is reminiscent of the night when my mother drugged Qin Xiang. Surveying the room, recognizing the familiar decor, I could almost confirm this was indeed that very night. Sister, calm yourself. Look closely, I am Qin Haoran, your brother. Qin Xiang froze. Her dazed eyes lifted, staring at me in confusion for several seconds, her red lips pouting in discontent. She nuzzled closer to me, her hands becoming increasingly bold. Brother, I feel unwell. Please help me. As her hands pressed against her chest, I instinctively gasped. On this very day in my past life, I had suffered from stomach pain after taking my mother's medication. I lost my reason then. This time, I must not err again. Misguided love without regret. Sang Seong is my nominal sister, yet in truth, she is a child bride. After my father's demise, my mother, fearing that she might elope with another, resorted to administering drugs to her and confining her within my chamber. This unfortunate act inadvertently led her to forever miss out on her true love. In a twist of fate, she later imprisoned my mother in the basement, compelling me to endure a tortured existence under her control. This lifetime, we shall never part, she proclaimed. Are you satisfied now, brother? Amidst a pool of blood, I opened my eyes once more, returning to the moment when my mother had drugged her. Ugh. My hair was yanked back, forcing me to lift my head from the ground. The chains on my ankles clanged ominously. Chin Seong gazed at my agonized expression, a shadow of a smile gracing her lips. Chin Howren, is your hunger strike a plea for suicide? For every meal you forego, I shall ensure your mother suffers an extra day. Let us see whether your resolve is stronger than hers. Dear sister, I numbly moved my eyes and suddenly spoke. Chin Seong's hand froze, her voice chilling. What did you just call me? For over 2 decades, I had never addressed Chin Seong as sister. Having been raised as a wife since childhood, how could I ever refer to her as such? Yet today, I felt compelled to do so. Sister, I said, a faint smile curling my lips, my gaze increasingly vacant. Is 7 years not enough? Following the incident with the drugs, Chin Seong willingly married me. She treated both my mother and me with utmost kindness, wholeheartedly managing our company alongside me. It was so serene that we believed she harbored no resentment. Until that fateful New Year's Eve, when she drugged us during the reunion dinner. While imprisoning my mother and me, she seized our shares and completely took over our family business. From that day forth, a 7-year-long vendetta, fueled by hatred, ensued. Initially, I suggested divorce, proposed compensation, and even attempted various forms of self-harm. Yet ultimately, I was coerced into relinquishing all hope, for Chin Seong held my mother's life in her grasp. Therefore, my refusal to eat was not born of obstinacy, but rather an inability to do so. Terminal stomach cancer was truly unbearable. Is that enough? Chin Seong chuckled coldly, striking me across the face. Yet she then offered me a bowl of warm porridge, compelling me to consume it. Chin Howren, what you owe me shall never be repaid in this lifetime. Were you not concerned I might run away with someone else? I assure you, we shall remain together forever. Are you satisfied now, brother? I was forcibly made to drink half a bowl of porridge, only to uncontrollably vomit it back up. Chin Seong's expression darkened further as she tore my shirt open and pressed herself upon me. So you refuse to eat? Very well. Let's continue. I truly could not comprehend. If Chin Seong despised me so deeply, why had she not sought solace in another man over these 7 years? Instead, she chose to drug me and share my bed. As the tumult within me surged, veins bulged upon my hands. While my body experienced pleasure, the anguish of my mind doubled, until the metallic taste of blood surged forth, overwhelming me. Blood spilled from my lips, splattering onto the pristine white sheets. Chin Seong's panicked voice echoed in my ears as she frantically wiped away the blood trickling from the corners of my mouth. Yet the more she wiped, the more blood flowed. Chin Howren, what is happening to you? My body slumped, and as I gazed at the dazzling chandelier above, a sense of liberation washed over me. Chin Seong, our debts are settled in this lifetime. Release my mother. My head spun, burdened as though something heavy pressed upon me. I furrowed my brow and slowly opened my eyes, only to be met with a familiar yet distant ceiling, leaving me momentarily stunned. Am I still alive? Where has Chin Seong brought me? It did not resemble a hospital, nor did it look like the room where she had confined me for 7 years. Instead, it bore a striking resemblance to the home we once shared. Brother, I feel so hot. Chin Seong's delicate breaths reached my ears, sending a shiver through my entire being. My gaze dropped hastily, colliding with a pair of tender, watery eyes. The youthful Chin Seong appeared dazed, her breath fragrant as she peppered my neck with soft kisses. Brother, you feel so cool and comforting. The thunderclap resonated in my mind, causing me to tremble violently. This is eerily reminiscent of the night Chin Seong was drugged by my mother. Scanning the room, I recognized the familiar decor and could scarcely believe if this was indeed that very night. Sister, calm down. Look closely. I am Chin Howren, your brother. Chin Seong's body stilled abruptly. She raised her dazed eyes, gazing at me in confusion for a few seconds, her lips pouting in dissatisfaction. She nuzzled closer to me, her hands becoming increasingly bold. Brother, I feel unwell. Please help me. Her hands guided mine to her chest, and I involuntarily gasped. On this very day, in my past life, I had suffered from stomach pain after taking the medicine my mother provided. I had lost all reason. In this lifetime, I must not repeat the same mistakes. Chapter 3. Bang! I seized the glass bottle filled with wishing stars from my bedside and, with precision, struck it against Qin Xiang's head. It was not enough to cause serious harm, but sufficient to render her unconscious. The glass shattered, and the paper stars cascaded across the bed. Suddenly, Qin Xiang's body collapsed onto me, and she fell limp, losing consciousness. I tilted my head back and gasped for breath, closing my eyes momentarily as if I had just survived a calamity. Thank goodness, thank goodness. A peculiar heat radiated through my body, prompting me to hurriedly roll out of bed and dash into the bathroom to turn on the cold water. My hand instinctively reached down. By the time I subdued the heat within me, my strength was nearly depleted. With a combination of stomach pain and a chill, I felt dizzy and disoriented. Struggling to emerge from the bathroom, I noticed something vibrating within the room. Upon closer inspection, I realized it was Qin Xiang's phone, which had fallen to the floor. I staggered over and bent down to retrieve it. However, just then, the world spun violently, and I collapsed to the ground. Before losing consciousness, I recalled the source of the vibration. It was Qin Xiang's phone. The caller must be her longtime crush, the Prince Charming, Xie Yunkai. Oh dear, Yunkai has arrived. Is he here to see Xiang Xiang? Guomin, Guomin. Voices from outside the room indicated that it was my mother welcoming guests. I pressed my aching head and sat up from the floor. The daylight had already broken. A flurry of footsteps approached my room. Xiang Xiang is in Howren's room. Ah, so early. What is she doing in Qin Howren's room? My awareness suddenly sharpened, and my heart sank. This was bad. Chapter 4. Xie Yunkai was once our neighbor. In a military compound, there were 3 households, the Xies, the Qins, and the Shuns. Both Qin Xiang and Xie Yunkai were the epitome of the perfect children. They bickered and competed fiercely from childhood through high school and into university, appearing as sworn enemies. However, everyone knew that the tension was merely a thin veil. As my father had adopted Qin Xiang with the intent of securing a future daughter-in-law. Thus, Qin Xiang and Xie Yunkai had an agreement that on the day of their university graduation, she would confess to my mother. The kindness of my family would be repaid, but not in the form of offering herself. Unfortunately, my mother had drugged Qin Xiang, preventing her from answering any calls. Fearing for her safety, Xie Yunkai personally came to check on her the following morning. Guided by my mother, he bore witness to the unexpected scene that unfolded across the bed. Heartbroken, Xie Yunkai returned home to accept an arranged marriage with someone else. Meanwhile, Qin Xiang, burdened with endless regret and resentment, became entangled with me for 7 years. A muffled groan suddenly emanated from the bed. The unconscious Qin Xiang stirred, furrowing her brow as she sat up, reaching back to touch the back of her head. Ouch. Her bewildered gaze gradually focused, finally landing on my face. Qin Xiang's body stiffened, her eyes reflecting a clear tremor. Qin Howren. She lunged towards me, her hands trembling violently as she frantically touched my face and lips. It was as if something was being wiped away. The tone was furious, yet there was an unmistakable tremor beneath. Who permitted you to cough up blood? Why didn't you tell me you were ill? Without my consent, you shall not even dare to die. Do you hear me? If you dare to die, I shall torment your mother, making her wish for death. Each word struck me like thunder in my ears. My body froze, and my heart trembled uncontrollably. Qin Xiang, you have also been reincarnated, haven't you? Chapter 5. Before I could finish, the door swung open. A figure stood poised to enter. I was clad in nothing but my underwear. If discovered, it would be utterly indefensible. Panic surged within me, and without a second thought, I yanked Qin Xiang down from the bed. Then, I leapt up, swiftly pulling the covers over my almost naked form. The scattered paper stars tumbled down, many landing on the floor. Xiang Xiang, are you all right? Upon entering, Xie Yunkai was taken aback by the sight of Qin Xiang on the floor and hurried to assist her. Yet, Qin Xiang merely stared at him in disbelief, finally exclaiming, Yunkai? Yes, Xie Yunkai nodded, a flicker of concern crossing his face. I called you last night, but you didn't answer. I was worried something had happened to you, so I came to check. Qin Xiang's pupils dilated suddenly, and she reacted just as I had, glancing around the room in disbelief, evidently processing the reality of her reincarnation. However, my mother, who had not been reincarnated, reacted with even greater intensity. Seeing that we had not shared a bed, her voice rose in pitch. "What is going on? Why are you not, Mom?" I hastily interrupted. "My sister just brought me some stomach medicine, and I accidentally knocked it over. Please make me another cup, and call in a maid to clean up the shards." Alas, it's a pity that the star jar was broken too. As I spoke, I glanced at Xie Yunkai, who appeared to have visibly relaxed, and smiled. "Yunkai came looking for Xiang, didn't he?" "Yes," Xie Yunkai replied, nodding and turning his gaze toward Qin Xiang. At that moment, Qin Xiang had fully regained her composure. Slowly, she took a deep breath, gazing at his face, her voice husky. "Yunkai, it has been a long time." Chapter 6. Qin Xiang went out to talk with Xie Yunkai. Yet just before leaving, she insisted on cleaning up the glass shards in my room, including the scattered handmade stars. She meticulously ensured that not a single piece was left behind. As she carried the trash bag out, she cast a lingering glance back at me and my mother, her eyes dark and profound. Ultimately, she said nothing and gently closed the door behind her. I remained there, collapsing onto the bed, exhaling a sigh of relief as if I had narrowly escaped a calamity. That was terrifying. Haoran, my mother, her complexion pale, sat beside my bed and sighed. "Don't you like Xiang? Why not keep her here?" My eyes involuntarily trembled, and familiar pangs of pain surfaced within me. Yet, more than anything, I felt a sense of release. If she does not harbor affection for me, such matters cannot be forced. We ought not to be too calculating in our gratitude, nor should we resort to coercion, should we? My mother, however, covered her face, displaying a hint of frustration. What if Xiang truly marries Xie Yunkai? What then? The daughter-in-law we painstakingly nurtured would simply be donned in another's bridal attire? I understood her sentiments clearly. It was not merely the sense of loss that troubled her. She was also reluctant to relinquish the shares my father had allocated to Qin Xiang. After all, my father had genuinely intended for her to be a daughter-in-law, providing Qin Xiang with a measure of security before his passing. Although the amount was not substantial, who would willingly give away such assets? Furthermore, should Qin Xiang marry, those shares would inevitably belong to her in-laws. Why should that be the case? "But mother," I sighed, "if you continue to scheme against Xiang, do you not fear she may harbor resentment towards you?" I added, "What if in time, mother and daughter become adversaries, and she secretly undermines you? You should trust in your own son above all." My mother's sobs momentarily ceased. She gazed at me intently for a while, before finally conceding. "Indeed, rest assured, my son, I shall find you a fine daughter-in-law." I thought to myself, that was not quite my intention, mother. Chapter 7. Until 10:30 that evening, Qin Xiang had yet to return. However, Xie Yunkai had updated his social media around 8, posting a picture of Qin Xiang's delicate profile, accompanied by the caption, "You are worth my courage." I silently liked the post and left a heartfelt comment, wishing my sister and brother-in-law all the best. Shortly thereafter, my phone rang. The voice on the other end was playful and gentle, yet succinct. "Come out. I'm at your doorstep." I pressed my lips together and softly replied, I donned my jacket and was about to step outside when my mother suddenly perked up. "Haoran, is it Yuding?" "Yes." I nodded, pausing for a few seconds while gripping the doorknob. Shun Yuding, the eldest daughter of the Shun family, intertwined with the Xie and Qin families. She was my childhood companion. In a previous life, after Xie Yunkai had given up on Qin Xiang, he returned home to enter into an alliance with Shun Yuding. Consequently, Qin Xiang had harbored deep-seated jealousy towards Shun Yuding, relentlessly targeting her. The two of them had nearly caused each other's downfall. Unaware of my unease, my mother seemed invigorated. "I find Shun Yuding quite suitable. We know her background well, and her family's status aligns with ours." With a sudden click, the door swung open from the outside, lightly bumping into me. Qin Xiang entered promptly, bringing with her the chill of early autumn. She carried 2 takeout containers of stir-fried noodles from our favorite restaurant. She glanced at my jacket and asked coldly, "Where are you heading at this hour?" Chapter 8. I paused, clearing my throat awkwardly. In my previous life, after Xie Yunkai's union with Shun Yuding, he had faded from my world early on. I was unaware of whether they found happiness after marriage. All I knew was that Qin Xiang had remained ever hostile towards Shun Yuding since then. Every encounter with her leaves Qin Xiang in a state of melancholy. Upon returning home, she silently torments me. "Just go out for a walk," I said, biting my lip, refraining from mentioning whom I wished to see. I quietly circumvented Qin Xiang and stepped outside. "Mom." Qin Xiang entered the house in high heels, placing the stir-fried noodles on the table, her demeanor unruffled. "I brought you both some supper." My mother's eyes flickered, misting slightly. Xiang, I was scared last night. Mom. Qin Xiang smiled gently, interrupting her. I understand. Please also believe me. I have always remembered the kindness you showed in adopting me. Regardless of whom I ultimately marry, I shall never distance myself from you and my brother. Let the past remain in the past. My mother nodded repeatedly, choking back tears. Just as she was about to speak, Qin Xiang, seemingly casually breaking apart a pair of disposable chopsticks, asked, "It's late. I wonder if my brother is safe out there." "Don't worry," my mother smiled. "He's gone to meet Shen Yuding." Xiang, do you think the chances are high for Howren and Yuding?" I observed. They seem quite compatible. Crack. The disposable chopsticks in Qin Xiang's hand snapped in two. Chapter 9. Beneath the dim glow of the streetlight, a silver lotus stood quietly by the roadside. The driver's window was lowered halfway, revealing a breathtaking profile of exquisite beauty. Upon seeing me emerge, the woman tilted her head slightly towards the passenger seat. "Get in." I pursed my lips and cast my gaze downward, opening the car door and settling inside. My tense body inexplicably relaxed, and I let out a gentle sigh. "Are we going to watch the sunrise?" Shen Yuding's gentle voice resonated within the confines of the vehicle. I hesitated, shaking my head. "No, I don't want to." Shen Yuding glanced at me sideways. "Looking for a place to drink? To cry a little?" I shook my head and sighed. "No need. Really, it's not that painful." I cannot deny that I still felt a twinge of sorrow, yet I also felt a sense of happiness. Shen Yuding regarded me with surprise, clearly unconvinced. "You better mean it." I recognized her skepticism. After all, she knew how much I adored Qin Xiang, how earnestly I had awaited the day I might marry her. Now that Qin Xiang had established a relationship with Xie Yunkai, it was only natural for Shen Yuding to assume I would be disheartened. Yuding, although this may sound sudden, I genuinely no longer have feelings for Qin Xiang. Her being with Xie Yunkai brings me joy as her brother. Shen Yuding pressed her crimson lips together, her delicate fingers tightening. She gazed at me intently for a moment before suddenly asking, "Have you opened the star jar I gave you the other day?" Chapter 10. I paused abruptly, feeling somewhat awkward. I did open it, but I suppose that doesn't quite count as opening it. Shen Yuding wore a puzzled expression as she unbuckled her seatbelt and leaned closer to me. Our proximity was such that from an outsider's perspective, it might have appeared as if we were about to kiss. Shen Yuding locked her gaze onto mine, her voice unexpectedly tense. "What does it mean to not truly open up? You wouldn't send it to someone else, would you?" I felt a pang of guilt and replied, "I haven't given it to anyone. It's just..." Suddenly, the car door beside me was flung open. Before I could react, my arm was violently yanked out. Caught off guard, I had no choice but to follow the force and step out. The door slammed shut behind me, and outside stood Qin Xiang, clad in a striking yellow haute couture dress, her expression stern and cold. The hand gripping my arm was unyieldingly strong, her nails nearly digging into my flesh. "Qin Howren, you let her kiss you? You actually agreed to her kissing you? Did you promise her?" I was taken aback. "She didn't kiss me. What? Does Xiang think so little of me as your sister-in-law?" Inside the car, Shen Yuding raised an eyebrow with a seductive flare, her tone laced with provocation as she gazed at Qin Xiang through the half-lowered window. Her voice remained gentle, yet each word was sharp. "Xiang is dating. Does she need to control whether your brother does or not? So concerned about your brother, aren't you afraid your Yunkai might get jealous?" Qin Xiang furrowed her brow, her tone growing unfriendly. "I care about my brother. It's none of your business." "Oh," Shen Yuding smirked. "Is he really your brother?" Chapter 11. Qin Xiang's expression darkened suddenly. Her lips pressed tightly together. I was startled and quickly reached out to grasp her arm. "Sister, let us go home." Shen Yuding was fearless in her ignorance, but I understood well. Qin Xiang's demeanor clearly bore the resentment of having her affection stolen by Shen Yuding in a previous life. Continuing this conversation could easily escalate into a physical confrontation. "Qin Howren." Yet, Shen Yuding fixed her icy gaze on my hand, gripping Qin Xiang's, her eyes cold. Finally, she let out a rare curse. "I can't believe I fell for your nonsense." What a liar, claiming to dislike Qin Xiang. The car roared to life, speeding away like an arrow. I watched the taillights disappear around the corner, letting out a sigh. "Shen Yuding, you are utterly oblivious to how much Qin Xiang despises you. I just saved your life. Are you that reluctant?" Qin Xiang's voice, cool and distant, came from beside me. I cast her a puzzled glance. "She hasn't taken your beloved from you in this lifetime. Is it necessary to be so on edge?" Chapter 12. Qin Xiang pressed her lips together, silently studying me. Yet, she remained silent. I couldn't help but sigh. To be honest, since awakening, It was only now that I had the chance to be alone with Qin Xiang. An opportunity to openly discuss the matter of rebirth. Xiang. Scheming against you in the past was our fault. We deserved it all. But the sins that needed atonement, my mother and I have paid our dues. In this lifetime, focus on your own love life. Let us not owe each other anything and start anew, shall we? I spoke with genuine sincerity, but Qin Xiang's eyes inexplicably dimmed. Her delicate fists remained tightly clenched, her red lips slightly pursed, as if she were suppressing some emotion. I frowned. What was going on? In the previous life? Did the 7 years of resentment remain unresolved? Do you intend to continue seeking vengeance against my mother and me in this life? Sister, I said, pursing my lips as I gazed earnestly into her eyes beneath the moonlight. I wish you a lifetime of happiness with your husband. Let the past remain in the past. A profound tremor coursed through Qin Xiang's eyes. After a prolonged silence, her tightly clenched fists relaxed and opened. Chapter 13. After that day, Xie Yunkai began visiting my home more frequently. Despite my attempts to evade him, our paths crossed several times. Particularly on this day, I was in front of the dressing mirror by the door, adjusting my hairstyle. Dressed in a meticulously chosen white, casual outfit, Xie Yunkai entered just in time. His gaze upon me grew oddly intense. Is Howren Ge going to join us for the movie? Not at all, I replied lazily, stifling a yawn, feeling perplexed. Why would I go when you two are on a date? I have an appointment with the doctor today to check my stomach. In my previous life, I ultimately succumbed to stomach cancer, and I feared that the stomach pains starting now might be sowing the seeds of disaster. Having been given a second chance at life, I needed to cherish it. Xie Yunkai appeared to breathe a sigh of relief, his expression softening considerably. Oh, I see. However, Qin Xiang, who was preparing her bag, paused upon hearing my words. She lifted her gaze towards me, her eyes deepening with concern. Brother, we should accompany you. No, you need not. I had barely uttered a syllable when Xie Yunkai, with a troubled expression, interjected. But Xiang, the hospital, and the cinema are in opposite directions. We won't make it in time. Perhaps we should reschedule our cinema trip, she suggested. Howren Ge's health is the priority. You all need not worry about him. My mother chimed in just as she emerged from the kitchen with some washed fruit. He has a date today. Qin Xiang's brow furrowed slightly. Xie Yunkai looked at me with surprise, his eyes sparkling. Howren Ge, you have someone you like? Ah, I nodded sheepishly yes. Chapter 14. What nonsense. I was not on a date at all. The so-called date was merely an excuse to placate my mother. However, to my astonishment, as I stepped out to drive, Shen Yuding's car was parked right outside. Perhaps because she was off work today. She was not clad in her usual formal attire, but instead wore a lovely pink dress, her long black hair cascading down, appearing especially enchanting. What brings you here? I asked as I settled into the passenger seat, my expression one of shock. Shen Yuding raised an eyebrow, tossing me a bag of soup dumplings, her tone calm. My mother specifically woke me up this morning to tell me not to be late for our date. I was taken aback. So, my mother had conspired with her mother in advance? Your mother wants to set us up, Shen Yuding stated matter-of-factly. I couldn't help but break into a sweat, covering my face with my hand. Shen Yuding, being a lawyer, could undoubtedly see through the complexities of my family situation at a glance. Your father has just passed away. There must be many who harbor ulterior motives and are reluctant to accept your ascendance. In order to smoothly take over the company, it would be wise to find a strong partner or consider a strategic marriage. Qin Xiang's current relationship with Xie Yunkai has rendered her an outsider. So, your mother has set her sights on me. Shen Yuding's analysis was entirely accurate. I found myself at a loss for words, letting out a sigh. Rest assured, I have my own methods. There's no need for us to— All right, she replied suddenly, causing me to pause in surprise. After blinking a couple of times, I was still at a loss for comprehension. Huh? What? Chapter 15. It wasn't until I returned from the hospital checkup that I exchanged not even a single word with Shen Yuding. After all, it was the first time I had experience being pursued by a girl. Shen Yuding also refrained from speaking, allowing the silence to linger in the car. It wasn't until the vehicle halted at my doorstep that I opened the door to exit. She abruptly called out to me, stepping out herself, her high heels clicking on the pavement as she stood before me. Qin Howren. Shen Yuding's gaze was fixed upon my face, her deep eyes reflecting my image. I am serious. I nodded hastily, an urge to evade bubbling within me. I got it. However, Shen Yuding seemed to see right through my intentions. Her small fist clenched as she threatened me. By 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, I expect an answer. If it's even a minute late, I will take action. Oh, I poked her forehead playfully, Are you seeking trouble, little girl? Are you threatening me now? Shin Yuding laughed charmingly, playfully kicking me. So, I advise you not to easily disregard a lawyer. Life could become quite complicated. I simply brought my wrists together, thrusting them in front of her. Come on, gorgeous, big lawyer. Call the police. Go ahead, arrest me. Suddenly, my wrists were seized, and I was yanked forward, colliding with her soft form. Shin Yuding held me tightly, her face buried against my chest. Gotcha. I stood there, dumbfounded. What on earth was happening? Bang. Something fell to the ground at the corner of the street. I turned to look and saw Qin Xiang and Xie Yunkai holding hands at the intersection. A paper bag lay at Xie Yunkai's feet, with beer cans rolling out onto the ground. However, my gaze was fixed on a half-visible, striking blue and white umbrella box spilling from the paper bag. Chapter 16, Foot my apologies, Xie Yunkai said, wearing a bemused smile as he regarded us. I was utterly astonished. I even forgot the bag I was holding. So, it turns out that the person Howren likes is Sister Yuding. A perfect match, truly a case of beauty and talent. Yet, Qin Xiang frowned slightly, her cold gaze sweeping over Shin Yuding, who was clinging to my arm. What are you two doing at the doorstep, acting all lovey-dovey? Haven't you had enough of hugging? Xie Yunkai's expression faltered momentarily. Shin Yuding, however, raised an eyebrow and curved her lips into a smile. Not enough hugging. Not enough indeed. I hurriedly released my grip on Shin Yuding. Qin Xiang pursed her lips and approached with an air of displeasure, shoving Shin Yuding aside. What are the results? She inquired. It's nothing, I replied, shaking my head. Just pay attention to your diet and have regular checkups, and there won't be any issues. Qin Xiang's expression softened slightly as she nodded. Xie Yunkai stepped forward with a smile, wrapping his arm around her waist. Xiang, let us head inside. We shouldn't disturb Howren and Yuding estate. Yet, Qin Xiang remained still, her gaze sweeping over Shin Yuding and me. It's late at night, and you're still not done? Shin Yuding frowned slightly, though a smile graced her lips. Xiang, you're meddling a bit too much, aren't you? You're already home with Yunkai. Why concern yourself with us? A shiver ran through me, fearful that Shin Yuding might utter something inappropriate. I quickly tugged her gently. I'm heading home now. Bye. Yuding, be careful on your way back. Let me know when you get home. With that, I didn't wait for their reactions and turned astride into the entrance. Hurrying back to my room, I stood by the window and gazed down. Shin Yuding's car had already departed, turning the corner. I exhaled in relief, just as I was about to draw the curtains. My eyes inadvertently caught a glimpse of Xie Yunkai and Qin Xiang seemingly embroiled in an argument. 2 seconds later, I lowered the curtains, suspecting it had something to do with me. After all, Qin Xiang was my child bride, a fact Xie Yunkai had known since childhood. Even though they had established their relationship now, my presence would undoubtedly still irk him. I could understand that. I rummaged through my bag for my phone, contemplating for a moment before sending a message to Shin Yuding. Lawyer G, please don't forget the matter I entrusted to you today. It's crucial, please expedite. I was genuinely anxious, eager to sever ties with Qin Xiang completely. Although the past was a settled affair, having been reborn, perhaps Qin Xiang could manage to forget that it ever occurred. I, however, could not. The entanglements of those 7 years were indelible in my mind, and I could not pretend they didn't exist. Moreover, even without the notion of rebirth, given the current circumstances, it was clear we were no longer suited to share a roof and act as though we were a family. Chapter 17, I was abruptly jolted awake by the ringing of my phone. The moonlight was faint as I opened my eyes to check the time on the screen, 2:37 a.m. The caller was none other than Qin Xiang. What could she want at this hour? I curled deeper into my blanket, my consciousness slowly returning. Wait a moment. Was Qin Xiang supposed to be entangled with Xie Yunkai in bed at this time? Why was she calling me? Just as that thought crossed my mind, I heard Qin Xiang's delicate voice on the line. Yunkai, I can't take it anymore. Accompanying her words were the low, husky breaths of Xie Yunkai. My mind jolted awake. I opened my eyes wide, now fully alert. I could guess that this call might not have been initiated by Qin Xiang. It could just as easily have been Xie Yunkai. But what did it matter to me? With an expression of exasperation, I abruptly hung up. What a lunatic. What I failed to hear was the sultry whisper of Howren at the moment the call was disconnected. Chapter 18. When Shin Yuding arrived at my home with the documents. I had already spent the entire morning attending to paperwork. In my previous life, though Qin Xiang had imprisoned my freedom, the company's operations still require my assistance. The trials of my past, in fact, equipped me with the skills necessary to manage my father's company more adeptly in this life. I can't shake the feeling that you have made significant progress overnight, Shin Yuding remarked, her eyes wide with astonishment as she stepped through the door after I finished the last document. With such prowess, it's likely that many at the company have come to respect you. I offered a silent smile, my gaze falling upon the documents in Shin Yuding's hands, raising an eyebrow in curiosity. With pursed lips, she handed the documents to me, her expression inscrutable. As per your request, everything has been prepared. I opened the file, scanned its contents, and then looked up to smile gratefully at her. I appreciate the invaluable assistance of Lawyer G. Have you thought this through? Shin Yuding inquired, fixing her gaze on me. I nodded, affirming, yes, this is the best way to handle our relationship. After a pause, Shin Yuding continued, actually, there's no need to rush. After all, Qin Xiang and Xie Yunkai have just started their relationship. She left the latter part of her statement unsaid, but I understood her implication. Whether they would last was still uncertain. It matters not. Even if it were someone else instead of Xie Yunkai, I would still have to maintain a distance from Qin Xiang, I replied. Moreover, the memory of last night's phone call flashed through my mind, and I covered my face with my hands. Xie Yunkai is quite eager. TSK, Shin Yuding expressed her disdain. You should refrain from engaging with him. I widened my eyes in surprise. Did Shin Yuding harbor such a strong aversion to Xie Yunkai? Why then had she allied with him in my past life? Chapter 19. As Shin Yuding spoke, she scoffed lightly, knowing full well that your family adopted Qin Xiang to raise her as a future wife. He still feigns innocence while trying to steal her from you. What difference is there between him and a mistress? Her words, laden with irony, suggested that she had no ulterior motives concerning me. I cast a teasing glance at Shin Yuding, who quickly realized and touched her nose, clearing her throat before retorting. Am I anything like him? Is there any comparison between unrequited love and outright theft? Before confirming that you and Qin Xiang had no future, whoever noticed my feelings for you? As for him, he seems desperate for others to perceive his flirtation with Qin Xiang. I even made my confession in secret, and you didn't even catch a glimpse of it. The last sentence was uttered in a hushed tone, and I genuinely did not catch it. Yet when I sought to inquire further, she refused to elaborate. Shin Yuding did not linger. After placing the documents down, she departed. I escorted her to the door, but she abruptly halted, standing on tiptoe and leaning slightly closer to me with a smile. Just a friendly reminder, she said. Only 5 hours remain until 8 o'clock tonight. I swiftly closed the door. Off you go. As the weather turned cooler, wearing short sleeves felt a tad chilly. I rubbed my slightly cold arms, shook my head with a smile, and turned away, just as I was about to enter the house. I glanced up and noticed Qin Xiang seated on the wrought-tan chair on the second-floor terrace, her gaze fixed on me with an enigmatic depth. I was uncertain how long she had been observing me. Chapter 20. Here, this is for you. After donning a jacket, I ascended to the terrace. Settling into the wrought-tan chair, I placed the documents sent by Shin Yuding on a round table. Qin Xiang furrowed her brow, but did not take the documents. Instead, she abruptly inquired, Are you really with Shin Yuding? I pursed my lips, evading the question, and nudged the documents toward her. Take a look, if everything is in order. Just sign. A shadow of discontent crossed Qin Xiang's face as she flipped through the documents, her brows knitting tighter than I anticipated. What is the matter? Are the terms unsatisfactory? I asked, puzzled. I believe the conditions I offered were quite generous. The shares my father had provided for her, I could relinquish as her dowry, ensuring she would have some security upon marriage. However, there were 3 stipulations. First, she could only withdraw 50 million in dividends annually. I would not provide more. Second, these shares could not be transferred to anyone else. Third, Qin Xiang must move out of my home, unless faced with death or disaster. We need not meet again in this lifetime. Need not meet? Qin Xiang's lips curled with cold disdain. Qin Haoran, why should I accommodate you? Chapter 21. What kind of statement is that? I was infuriated to the point of laughter. I have cared for you all these years, and you turn around and run off with someone else, yet I still provide for you. You have not suffered, have you? What does it mean to accommodate me? I continued, Moreover, I do not believe you can face me and my mother as you once did. Not seeing each other is for the best. For the best? Qin Xiang abruptly hurled the documents to the ground, her eyes ablaze with fury. I have never been well. Qin Haoran, if you want me to sign the contract, I have one condition. You must not be with Shin Yuding. Her starry eyes widened, and her delicate fists clenched, embodying her anger. I felt a wave of helplessness wash over me as I gazed into the distance, tucking my cold fingers into my pockets. What does this have to do with Shin Yuding? Qin Xiang, You are still unable to let go of the past grievances. What has happened has already transpired. We cannot change what is unchangeable. My words trailed off. I stood frozen for a few seconds before withdrawing my hand from my pocket. My fingers inadvertently brushed against a sharp-edged object, a yellow paper star. It must have fallen into my coat pocket when I accidentally shattered the jar that night. The only surviving star. My eyes trembled as I slowly began to unfold it layer by layer. However, a pale, slender hand swiftly snatched it away. Qin Xiang's face turned a shade of deep blue as she tore it to shreds. My pupils constricted as I met her gaze, softly asking, "So, you already knew that Shun Yuding confessed to me in the star jar?" Chapter 22. It was almost in an instant. Images of the day I was reborn flashed through my mind like a jolt of electricity. The Prince Charming I had longed for was right before me. The moment I had yearned to express the regrets of a lifetime was at hand. Yet, Qin Xiang, for reasons unknown, insisted on finishing the task of sweeping up all the paper stars in my room first. In that instant, it felt as though I had stumbled upon an answer. I abruptly rose from my chair, retreating several steps as the realization struck me. Qin Xiang's hostility towards Shen Yuding might not solely stem from the fact that Shen Yuding had married Xie Yunkai in her previous life. Indeed, why would Shen Yuding, who despised Xie Yunkai so ardently, ever agree to such a union? Could it be that in her past life, I gasped in disbelief. Shen Yuding fought with you to the bitter end. All for me? Each time Qin Xiang encountered Shen Yuding, she returned to torment me. It seemed it was not merely about Xie Yunkai. Yes, Qin Xiang stepped forward, her eyes ablaze with emotion, gritting her teeth as she declared. Every time Shen Yuding sought me out in her past life, it was to negotiate terms, demanding that I let you go and divorce you. She claimed to have loved you for many years. If you were unhappy with me, why not in the marriage? I knew we should part ways. Yet I found myself unwilling to do so. I could never bear to let you go. Upon finishing her confession, Qin Xiang suddenly collapsed into my embrace, resting her head against my chest, softly weeping. Brother, I thought my reluctance to release you stemmed from hatred. But in that moment when you coughed up blood before me, I was truly terrified. In that instant, I realized that as long as you lived, no animosity mattered. After being reborn, I believed everything was behind us and that we could start anew. Yet even when I was with Yunkai, my thoughts were consumed by you. I feared you might truly end up with Shun Yuding, that you might accept her, love her. Brother, I might truly love you. Be silent, I exclaimed, delivering a sharp slap across her face, halting her unspoken words. My hand trembled violently as I shook my head and stepped back. Qin Xiang, you must not. I will not allow you to utter that. You cannot torment me in this life with thoughts of Xie Yunkai, just as you did in the previous one. Qin Xiang, in this lifetime, I can only be your brother. There shall be nothing more. Chapter 23. I am unaware of what transpired between Qin Xiang and Xie Yunkai that night. All I knew was that when he arrived at my home the following morning, his countenance was grim. The two of them seemed to have engaged in a fierce argument, the sounds of which reached even my study. As my fingers danced across the keyboard, I found solace in the praises from the shareholders. Yet, I was taken aback when Xie Yunkai suddenly burst through the door. He appeared to be in a dire state, despite his efforts to present himself well. My fingers halted, and I regarded him with curiosity. Brother-in-law, is something amiss? Xie Yunkai's smile was forced as his gaze swept across my computer screen, seemingly casual as he inquired, "How Ran? Are you planning to move to a different house with your mother?" I pursed my lips and replied, "Yes, that's correct. If Qin Xiang was unwilling to move, then I would take the initiative. You won't be coming back, right?" Xie Yunkai's eyes fell to the ground, a hint of tension evident within them. I lifted my gaze to meet his, offering a gentle smile, with no intention of beating around the bush. "You need not worry, regardless of what the future holds. My mother and I will sever ties with Qin Xiang. So, as a man, it would be wise to abandon those futile notions. It is rather distasteful." I believe my words were delivered in a mild tone, yet Xie Yunkai inexplicably chuckled bitterly. "What can I do? After all the effort to win her from you, I find her heart still bears the imprints of your presence." My pupils contracted slightly, and I momentarily glimpsed a reflection of my past self. However, Xie Yunkai seemed to have it slightly better than I did. I had no options left, while he still had choices. Is it still necessary to persist? To spend a lifetime with a woman whose heart accommodates to? Xie Yunkai chuckled in realization. "It is necessary, as long as you vanish from her world. I am confident that I can be with her until the end." His words lingered on the tip of his tongue, but were ultimately swallowed back. One of the gravest mistakes in life is to attempt to sway and reshape another's worldview. Respect, I smiled sincerely at Xie Yunkai, and blessings. On the day I finalized the house, Shen Yuding arrived, accompanied by Qin Xiang. Both held bouquets of flowers. I paused to accept the roses from Shen Yuding, while Qin Xiang glanced down at the vibrant sunflowers in her arms and smiled wryly. Turning away, she discarded the flowers into a trash bin. Then lifting her gaze, her eyes glistening, she smiled at me. Brother, can we talk? I maintained silent eye contact with her for 3 seconds before nodding. All right. Shen Yuding raised an eyebrow, playfully whispering in my ear, you still haven't given me a response. So why are you speaking with her first? I gently clicked my tongue and ruffled her hair. What do you have to compare with her? This was likely one of the last times Qin Xiang and I would meet. Yet she felt the need to compete? Shen Yuding seemed to grasp the situation, pouting slightly as she murmured, then you must give me an answer after the competition. Otherwise, I will truly report you. In the silent stairwell, Qin Xiang stood with her back to me, her slender figure trembling slightly, fists clenched tightly. I huddled my shoulders, feeling a bit cold. Brother, if it weren't for Mom telling me today that you two are planning to move, when would you have informed me of your departure? Would there come a day when I return home only to find that both you and Mom have vanished? Then I would search everywhere, only to discover that you had long abandoned me and left? Qin Xiang's voice was hoarse. In the desolate stairwell, a low echo reverberated. I lowered my gaze and pressed my lips together. I plan to inform you after I finish moving. It was to inform, not merely to tell. The new house has been purchased, and I have meticulously mapped out my new life, wherein Qin Xiang is conspicuously absent from every detail. Brother, Qin Xiang's voice trembled. Are you truly going to abandon me? Xiang, we have long ceased to walk the same path. What, then, is there to discuss regarding abandonment? But what if I love you? What if I have already broken up with Yunkai? Qin Xiang finally turned her head, her eyes reddened. Slap. I struck her across the face with an expressionless demeanor. That is the answer. For every word you utter, I shall respond in kind, until you cease to spout such madness. Indeed, as a man, I should not lay a hand on a woman. Yet, truth be told, this is what Qin Xiang owes me, what she owes our family. As her elder brother, it is my duty to awaken her from her delusions. Qin Xiang turned away, silent tears streaming from the corners of her eyes, her very breath trembling. Brother, what wrong have I committed? I merely repented a bit too late. Should I not resent the Xie family for orchestrating my fate? Yet in this lifetime, I have awakened, I have discovered my true love. Slap. I retaliated with another sharp strike to Qin Xiang's face, my expression unchanged. Such words are futile. We can never turn back. In this lifetime, I shall never see you again. Chapter 26. As I emerged from the stairwell, the wind in the corridor brushed against my cheeks, bringing with it a chilling sensation. I reached up to touch my face, only to find it damp. Had I been crying? Was it tears of joy or relief, as if escaping a catastrophe? I cannot tell, but it was certainly not born of sorrow. Not far away, a figure leaned against the wall. A slender silhouette exuded an air of elegance and charm. Simply gazing upon her was a feast for the eyes. Yuding, I called out gently. Shen Yuding abruptly lifted her head, instinctively glancing behind me. After confirming that Qin Xiang had not followed, she finally let out a sigh of relief. Now that you're done with her, it is my turn, right? I pulled out my phone to check the time. I likely won't have enough time. I must return to move. With that, I smiled and retrieved a paper star from my pocket, placing it into her hand. Look at it after I leave. Chapter 27. As the elevator doors slowly closed, I saw Shen Yuding intently unwrapping the paper star. It was the last star I had searched high and low for, finally discovering it nestled in the seams of my bedside. Inside, it bore her confession. Qin Haoran, if you and Qin Xiang do not end up together, please look back at me. I have waited for you for many years. The star now in Shen Yuding's hands had an additional line of text, more than a mere response. It was a code, the password to the lock of my new home. Chapter 28. In due course, I married Shen Yuding and settled down. Ding dong. My phone emitted a text notification. Shen Yuding, who was soothing our daughter, pouted her lips with an awkward expression. Darling, your dear sister is at it again. You're being overly dramatic, I retorted, playfully poking her forehead. You're a mother now. Why are you still so jealous? Sliding my finger, I opened the messages. Qin Xiang's desperate pleas had accumulated to over 100. Brother, please meet me. I beg you. Brother, I realize my mistakes. Please see me. I truly miss you. So much. Unmoved, I swiftly deleted the messages. Turning to my daughter, I clapped my hands. Come here, sweetheart. Daddy wants a hug. She did not approach. Instead, Shin Yuding tightened her embrace around me and planted a gentle kiss on my lips. The child can wait. My husband, I want a hug first. If you don't let go, I'll accuse you of domestic violence. Oh, I chuckled. Go ahead, call the police then. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe.